Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be. Welcome back to the Same Old Arsenal podcast, episode 71. Panic stations. Yes, we lost last week to Bate in the Europa League. Seems to have set off the Arsenal Twitter fan base again. You know, the one that split right down the middle. Now we've got it going on again. We're either out or Mercy in. Oh my God, here we go again. Guest this evening, of course, just over there is the man they call Lee Judges. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you, Craig. All well now. I'm back. I'm on the road to recovery, so all good, So been a tough week, but I'm bounced back now. I'm back strong.
Good. And down.
I know you're glad to hear that. I know you're happy.
I'm very glad to hear that. Of course, all I want is a well-believed Mark Judges.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Just down here, this is like is it the Brady Bunch? We look like the Brady Bunch, the four of us on the screen. Just down
up there,
because Turkish is thinking, what is he doing? Because he can't see the split screen. But down there, is the man they call the Harry Simiyu.
That's it. You got it in the end.
Did I? How are you, sir?
All good, thanks. All good. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoyed the weekend without football. It's nice to have a break sometimes, isn't it?
It is nice to have a break. Well, didn't get much. Well, yeah, we got a break from the actual game, but dearie me, the social media's been kicking right off, hasn't it? And just below me here is a man we tried to get on a few weeks ago, but we couldn't because we had a bit of a technical problem. But I got him here now. It's Turkish. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, Craig?
Very well, mate. Very well. Let me just start off by saying what a great show you're doing on Arsenal Fan TV.
Thank you very much.
I love
Appreciate
it.
It's
really, really good.
Appreciate that. Lee's basically a co-host. He's on it every time. So credit to Lee for that as well.
All right, Turkish, don't because goes big.
It won't fit in the screen soon.
No, he won't fit in the screen. He's frozen now, I think. All right, Lee.
Yeah, I thought so as well. I was thinking he ain't moved for a little while.
No, he's gone. Look, there you go. Oh, well, we're still here anyway. Let's get him back. We'll have to try and get him back. Oh, Lee Judges. Why do you do this to me? Let's try and get him back in. Or do you reckon he knows himself how to get himself back in? No, probably not. It says he's still there. Add. Sorry for this, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be back to us very shortly, I'm sure. No? All right then. No. Right, I'm sure he'll join us when he can. Anyway, lads, as we know, we lost to Bate Borisov in the Europa League, and it's kicked it all off again. But what I want to know is that we've had these results in us for the last 5 or 6 years. If you go back in the league as well, you go back through Europe, we've lost to some pretty poor sides. Go back in the Premier League, we'll be losing to bottom half of the table clubs.
Yeah.
Turkish, let me start with you. Is it, there is a massive panic going on at the moment. Oh my God, Emery's got to go. We can't. I don't even know what he wants to do. I don't even know how he wants to play. Yada 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 yada. Is it too? It's got to be panic stations, and it's got to be too early to start panicking, Turkish. Surely.
Of course it is. I mean, my last few tweets have been in relation to, and what I say is that you can question Emery, but you have to understand you need to give the man time. At the end of the day, yes, we lost to Bate, but we lost to Ostersunds at home last season. Like you said, we've had more embarrassing defeats in the past 5-6 years. At the end of the day, we've got a man that's come in and taken over a team that's been a one-man team in terms of Wenger for the last 20 plus years. And there's going to be bumps along the road, especially with the way we go about finances on top of that. Even if we was a big spending team and Emery came in and spent 100, 200 mil, these sort of results can happen. Pep in his first year was losing to Leicester 4-3 or 4-2, Everton 3-0. No one was calling for his head. But at the same time, I do understand. I think it was Harry that tweeted something about them managers have given everyone some hope. So they gave the board the vision to support him, whereas Emery's slightly not doing that at the moment. But at the same time, the vision has to come with the money spent, and spending 50 mil after taking over from a man that's been there for 20 years is not going to change an awful lot. So we're in a bit of a sticky situation, and like you said about our online fan base, it's a bit mad at present. They're very loud. They're probably louder than the match-going fans, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Harry, what you got to say about it, mate? I mean, you've been tweeting away since the game, like us all. I think everyone's panicking. You know my take on Emery. We've got to give him more time than 7-8 months. And people were attacking me on Twitter. Oh, I don't care if it's 5 months, 6 months, 3 months, 2 months. He ain't good enough. He's got to go. What's your thoughts?
I think for me, I'm not saying that I want Emery to go, and I'm not saying that he's had enough time. I sympathise with him in the sense that the investment hasn't really been there. We brought in a few players in the summer, but I've said it before, it was like we were shopping in the second grade bracket of players. We never went out and really done any massive business. It was kind of like we were shopping in bargain hunters, and that's fine if you shop there, but you know what I mean? It was like we were just plugging holes in the team. I think, but what I do think as well is that we can't be, what I'm struggling with at the moment is the same Arsenal fans that last season were going, Wenger's this, Wenger's that, Wenger's crap, Wenger's this. They now all of a sudden have decided that it's wrong to criticise a manager. And that's hypocritical for me, because last season we were criticising someone who's an Arsenal legend, someone who for me had credit in the bank with the fans, with the board for the things he's done in the past. Unai Emery doesn't have that. So there's no reason why as a fan who pays their money to go and watch the club, I can't say I disagree with something that Unai Emery's done. That's what's really getting me, and I'm really struggling with at the minute. For me, Unai Emery came in, and you guys will know this because we speak together every week. I've not been saying this just in the past 2 weeks. I've been struggling to understand where Emery's going with things for a while now, for a few months. And it goes all the way back to that game at Southampton. We lost that game at Southampton. We played at 3 centre-backs with Xhaka and Lichtsteiner being 2 of them. And at that point, we had lots of injuries. We had suspensions. We ended up losing the game. And at that time, straight after that game, my view on it was, let's not panic. We've lost 1 game in how many? This is progress. Let's enjoy it. Don't panic. Let's get our players back and get back to normal. But it was as if Unai Emery panicked, because from that day on, he hasn't settled with a system. He hasn't settled with a style of play. He keeps chopping and changing people. Woz said it on last week's show. Partnerships have been broken up. And for me, it feels like from week to week, Unai Emery is desperately trying to find the winning formula. And going back to that point that Turkish said that I raised on Twitter, the point I was trying to make was that you saw a Jurgen Klopp come in at Liverpool initially, and you saw that, what he was trying to do. You may not have got the results straight away, but he obviously went there, had a vision, got his players to buy into that, and they went through the painful process of embedding that, knowing that there was going to be some pain along the way. If Unai Emery had stuck to one particular way now, I wouldn't be sitting here saying this. I'd be calling for patience. I'd be saying it takes time to embed a new style of play. My problem with Unai Emery is 2 things. It's number one is that I can't see what he is trying to do. I can't see where this road leads, and I can't understand the Mesut Ozil situation. With Ozil, and I know we're going to talk about it later on, that is driving me absolutely mad. And yeah, our fans are too vocal on social media. Some of them, they don't want to have a debate. They just want to say something, and if you disagree, well, it's like, F you, I don't want to hear from you. So that is a problem, but that's been there for years. I just think that right now, I'm struggling to see what the end game is. How does Unai Emery want Arsenal to play? And the reason I'm struggling with that is because from week to week, it keeps changing.
Yeah, I can see your point there, actually, and it is a good point. But like I just want to bring back to what you said about Arsene Wenger. I gave Arsene Wenger 10 years. Do you know? I mean, I people who follow me on Twitter know I wanted Arsene Wenger to go in 2011 when Blackburn Rovers knocked us out of the FA Cup at the Emirates. That was my day. I was like, that is it. He's got to go. So for someone like me, I've wanted him to go since then. I understand why people wanted him to stay, but in my opinion, after that game, we were finished, or he was finished.
No, Craig, you're absolutely right in the sense that Arsene Wenger deserved criticism at the end. But the point I'm just making is that if you can do that to someone that you've had great times with, how comes the same people now are so afraid of criticising Emery?
I took you up the wrong way completely. My apologies.
They're afraid to criticise him because they're worrying about looking stupid. If you've spent the last 10 years, and I'm not saying that you did it, but one of those people that was like, F Wenger, get him out, I hope this happens to him, I hope that happens to him. You now look like an idiot if you criticise Unai Emery, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Lee, what's your take on it all, mate?
We've got how long we got?
Losing to Bate Borisov, obviously very bad. But as I was saying to the lads there when you just nipped out, we've had these results. We've got these results in us. Every year we've got these results in us, and every club's got these results in them. Man United getting knocked out of the League Cup by Milton Keynes Dons. Go back through the.
Man City lost to Wigan last season.
Yeah, I mean these results are there. This is the game of football. I mean, you can go back through our history. Getting knocked out of the cup by Bradford, by Blackburn back in I know I'm going back to 2011. Recently. Losing to Bate or Bate Borisov, whatever you want to call them. We lost to Östersunds last season. Thursday's result didn't surprise me as much as it did, and I'm really struggling to get the concept of why it's upsetting so many people. We lost the game fair and square. They beat us fair and square. Yes, we were awful. But those games, we have got those games in us. Arsenal are always going to come up with them performances somewhere along the line.
It's their agendas.
It could be.
That's what's blown it out of proportion. Yeah. Either the Wenger Emery agenda or the Ozil agenda. That's the two agendas that have blown this match into the Twitter.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that in a minute. The old Emery and Ozil thing. But Lee, people are panicking, and I can't see why.
I think look, you've got to get into the context of what it all is, and you can break it down into two sections if you like. At this moment in time, it's not a disaster because it's over two legs. It's not what happens in the first leg, it's what happens over the two legs. So at this moment in time, you've got to look at it, and this is how I've looked at it. It's half time, we're losing 1-0. You know what I mean? Like but the context of it is, if we don't come back and we don't win, then there's problems.
Yeah.
And how I look at it, the way there could be problems, is that over the last sort of 3 or 4 games I've seen at the Emirates against lower opposition, we've struggled. Cardiff, we've struggled. 2-1. If it ends up 2-1, we're out. As you say, the team. I can't remember the team that we played. It ended at 0-0. It was at the beginning in the group stages. I can't remember. It was a 0-0.
Sporting Lisbon.
Was it Sporting Lisbon we drew 0-0 with? Yeah, absolutely woeful performance. So they're in there. They're in those performances. Now I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't even angry on Thursday because it was that bad. It was that bad. You just couldn't get angry about it. And I looked at it and I thought, for the first time for a very, very long time as an Arsenal fan, I felt to myself, I'm not going to lose and get the ump about it because they don't care. Those players don't care, because if they did care, they'd gone out and produced a better performance than what they did. Now, all this Emery debate's coming on, and it's getting, about the Ozil thing and the team selection and everything there. I'm going to bring it down to a couple of things. No one. I can't understand what's going on at the moment with Emery. I think something's going on behind the scenes. If I'll be honest, there's because there doesn't seem to be players playing for him. And I don't mean that in a negative way. What I'm trying to say is, Mkhitaryan, for instance, played well against Huddersfield. It's against Huddersfield, and then puts in an atrocious performance the other day. I thought Iwobi played really well on Thursday, the only one that really worked really hard, but there's nothing there. They rather look at Mkhitaryan missing the chance. What about Lacazette's performance? What about Lacazette's header You know what I mean? Like when he missed that header, did he look like he was bothered? It was no. Just, oh well, another one will come along in a minute, and things like that. And I just feel that there's something not quite right with the team. Now, you can go and say whatever you like about selections, the money side of things, and all that. Like, you know, I think defensively, if we're going to go on to the Ozil thing, the reason we're not winning games at this moment has got nothing to do with Mesut Ozil being in the team. The reason we are not doing is because we're crap at defending. That is what it's all down to. It doesn't matter. We score. You get all these stats comes out now. I rather look at the eye. You know, and what I'm watching. I'm seeing Arsenal create chances. I'm seeing Arsenal miss chances. But ultimately, I'm seeing us not being able to defend. And again, on Thursday, we couldn't defend a set piece. It's poor defending. You know what I mean? Whatever way you look at it, and that's what continues to keep happening. Now. All this stuff on Twitter, and I've had to turn it off for group chats and all that. Mesut Ozil, or you know what I mean, or Uri Emery, or whatever. The fact of the matter is, and this is how I see it, has Ozil been at merited it all? Not in my opinion, no, because I can tell you that. Look, Jenkinson's come in a couple of times and played really well and then been left out. No one's going on about him. Oh, he should be in the side. He played well last week and being left out. Well, when it comes down to, and this is my big thing about it, the team, if the team was winning 2 or 3-0, goes to Bate and wins 2-0 or 3-0, goes to West Ham and wins 2-0, 3-0, I've left out Mesut Ozil out the side. So what? So what? We've won the game. The fact of the matter is we're leaving Mesut Ozil, or he's leaving Mesut Ozil out of the team at the moment, and it's not getting the results, Craig. So straight away then there's pressure coming on him. And the arguments are there for all to see, you know what I mean? Because at this moment in time, you know, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, you're leaving out. It's not just, by the way, it's just not Ozil that's being left out this side at the moment. Ramsey's being left out, left, right, and centre. You know what I mean? We're not putting these 2 players in for whatever reason. And people are, you know, saying to us now, oh, well, Ramsey's finished now. Well, if that's the case, why didn't they get rid of him in January? He's here to the end of the season, paying him 110 grand a week, so he plays. Because if they don't play him, Craig, why keep him? Why keep him? You know what I mean? There's so many baffling decisions about what the manager's doing at this moment in time. Now, go on to the next one, which is a real fundamental point of whatever you want to say of it, is that you look at those situations there, and he's not managing in those situations. If you've got to be brutal about it, you know what I mean. Mesut Ozil is not being managed properly. Aaron Ramsey's not being managed properly. We're not getting the best out of Lacazette and Aubameyang up front. You know what I mean. So when people start making these arguments about Emery, right? Well, you've got to play your best players and all that, like blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I agree with that. But you've also got to get your best players, right, in a system. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And that's what we've got to do. And he's not been able to do that. He's not been able to get Mesut Ozil and Ramsey, Lacazette and Aubameyang in the same sort of team, which I find baffling, because at the end of the day, we're going to teams like Bate and can't beat them. I'd rather go to Bate with all those players and let's have a game. Let's make a game. Do you know what I mean? But at this moment, there's tactical stuff, by the way, we're not good enough at. And then I come on to another point, you know what I mean? It's just been brushed aside. You know, like I'm going to call him Mav, because I can't say second name.
Ah, yes,
right?
You're mentioning it.
Right? He's been left out of the Europa League defence squad, right? And I've had argument, oh yeah, because we haven't got enough players. So we've got 34 midfield players. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you know, you can afford to leave Ramsey at home. You can afford Ozil at home. You can have El Neni on the bench. You've got Guendouzi. You've got Suarez that's not getting a game. But when you look at our back and it's bare minimum, and he can't play in this competition now because we've not picked him. And for the life of me, I can't understand that. I cannot understand the logic of it. Someone come on here and tell me why we can see goals left, right and centre, that we've got a centre half that's not even available to play. Now, what makes it even worse, Craig, right, and this is where I'd criticise Emery and all that. If we do the business like we should do against Bate and beat them 3-0 at home, he can come in and get 90 minutes on on Thursday. Get him up to speed for the game, for some big games coming up. But oh no, he's got to sit on the bench now or not even be a part of any game for us. But you know, but when's he gonna play games for us now? He ain't. You know what I mean? Like we've got now to continue with defenders that continually keep making mistakes and continually letting in goals. But everybody wants to talk about Mesut Ozil and Emery, and there's other issues than these guys. It's not all about Mesut Ozil and Emery. There's so many other things that are not right about the team. I want someone to come on here and say to me, why is Denis Suarez, you've said it last week, why is he signed? He's not had a game yet. He's not played.
Yeah.
But we've got defenders that are conceding goals left, right and centre, and we're not playing. We haven't strengthened in that area whatsoever with loan signings or whatever. And they're the arguments, and I think to myself, you know, what is going on with Emery? You know, and Harry is spot on what he said there. People are afraid to criticise him. It makes him look stupid. And at the end of the day, he is making mistakes left, right and centre at this moment in time. And if he's not making mistakes and he's a great manager, how comes we're losing to team part-time to add breakfast and Burger King the next day? They're the questions you've got to ask yourself.
We'll just let Turkish move there before we carry on.
That's right. So to rant over. So they're all the things. There's so many issues that are not quite right.
One second, mate. One sec. Turkish, is there someone watching the telly or something?
Is it too loud?
Yeah. Can't hear him, mate. Sorry. No worries, man.
Back on, Ricky.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's got a big house, hasn't he? He's got loads of doors.
Going on the toilet.
Yeah.
So they're all the issues at this moment in time. They're all the issues that are there, and there's so many different issues. But everybody just wants to keep going on to the Mesut Ozil thing or the thing. And what people are not going to criticise Emery because they've criticised Wenger for so long. I don't want to go down that route. But I'm sorry, when you're losing to Bate, and let's be honest, guy, it was the most inept performance that I've seen from Arsenal. Do you imagine? Can I just put this out? If that happened last year under Wenger,
God!
Would have happened after that game.
Yeah.
You know, would everybody get up? I'll give him another week. Give him another. It would have been absolute pelters. And do you know what? Rightly so.
Yeah.
And you know what makes it worse? I don't know how you guys feel about it. I watched the game between Spurs and Dortmund 24 hours before that, and they're completely off the planet to us at this moment in time. Yeah. Off the planet to us, Spurs, with no stadium and all that. But that's all right. We've got to give him time. You know, Pochettino has got no money. You know, we're all moaning about Emery because he's been given £50 million. He's got no money, no stadium. He's had to sell a couple of players because I'm telling you that now, he had to get rid of Dembele at this stage, you know what I mean? And bring in youngsters. He's made Sissoko, right, prime midfield player, right? Well, what Emery, you know, he's done that.
He's done with Winks as well. Look how Winks is playing at the moment.
Why have we not done it with our team? I look at our defenders. Mustafi's gone worse than that's unbelievable in itself, but he has actually got worse. You know what I mean? Koscielny, I feel sorry for him and all that. There's been no improvement on, you know, Kolasinac keeps making the same mistakes, Craig, week in, week out. As good as he's going forward, can't defend. Well, fucking coach him to defend then. You know what I mean? But, oh no, we've got to let it ride and all that. And I'm sorry, like, that performance on Thursday was pathetic. It was pathetic in every way. It was embarrassing. Now, it won't mean it doesn't mean nothing in the bigger context if we go through. But, my God, if we don't go through, I'm telling you, if we do not go through on next Thursday, he is under all sorts of pressure.
Oh, massive. Just before we go on, good evening to you all in the chat, and good evening to you all watching us live. 200 of you. Goodness me. Thank you very much indeed for your support. And Michael Harneman, thank you very much for your kind donation, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. We will be coming to you in the comments section like we always do. Last 15 minutes, we'll get some questions and we'll ask the boys some questions. Just before we carry on, as you know, we are sponsored, well, not sponsored, we are partnered with FansBet. On Thursday, the 28th of February, they have hired out the Islington Sports Bar, the new one, the Islington Sports Bar and Grill, and they are doing a question and evening answers with a question and answers evening with Kevin Campbell and Nigel Winterburn. And guess what? Lee, Harry and Graham are going to be starring in that evening. They are going to be on the stage answering some questions, talking about some North London derbies. Graham's going to be up on stage. I think he's bringing in his A3 pad and pen. He's going to tell you how easy it is to beat Tottenham. It's absolutely free to go. Thursday, the 28th of February, 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. at the Islington Sports Bar and Grill. But here's the catch. Only people who have got a FansBet account can attend. So, if you want to go, the links are down in the description in this video. You click the first link, you sign up to the FansBet. You use the Same Old Arsenal podcast. You choose Arsenal as the team you support. You choose your branch to be the Same Old Arsenal podcast. Once you've done that, you click the second link and you get your tickets. And you get to go to the question and answers evening completely free of charge. So if you want to do that, all the links are down below in the description. Get down there after the video. Make yourselves an account. Don't have to use it. Don't have to bet. Don't have to do nothing. Just make yourselves an account. Click the link for the tickets. And away you go.
And meet a couple of legends.
Yeah, meet a couple of legends. Yeah, I mean, you'll get to meet Lee and Harry and Graham. You'll meet three legends.
Forget about Kevin and Nigel. They're not me there.
If you want to go, it's completely free of charge. All you got to do is sign up for the tickets. Right, back to the podcast. Turkish. Going back to what Lee said about we don't know the systems, we don't know formations, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
The one thing that baffles me is, remember the second half, and I always go back to this game because it just goes to prove that he can do it. But the second half against Tottenham, he changed things up. He brought on Ramsey. He changed a few things around, and we went on and absolutely annihilated them in the second half. Can't remember if they had 2 or 3 shots in the second half. We annihilated Tottenham in that half, and I'm thinking to myself, he's done it. He's found it. He's found his balance. He's found the players for the form, for the positions. Look at this. Surely he's going to he's going to go with this again. Yeah. Lo and behold, the next fixture comes along and he's changed it all up again, taking all the balance out. And I forget who we played, but it wasn't as good as the Spurs performance. What is he trying to do, Turkish? What's he trying to do? Look, I understand. He's been given pittance to spend. He has brought in some of his own players. He has brought in Leno, and he brought in Guendouzi, and he brought in Socrates. What's he trying to do? Lucas Torreira.
Yeah.
What is he trying to do? Give me your thesis on his 8 months here.
He's changed it up a lot. Like initially, look how he was playing in the first few weeks of the season. He was pressing high. He was trying to press high, and he was trying to play out the back. I think that is his philosophy, but over time that's changed because of personnel, whether it be because of injuries and whether it be because a lack of trust in the players. Now it's worked that time during that 22 game unbeaten run. A lot of his chopping and changing worked, and that was what he was getting plaudits for. But my worry was always that, listen, these substitutions eventually are going to run out of steam, and we're going to have to look at his starting 11, and we're going to have to look at his starting tactics and analyse that. And the time came in December. Now I remember the 4-2 with Tottenham. He was a tactical he masterclass with this in the second half. Liverpool at home, pretty similar. We played very well in that game. We nullified that attack pretty much the best against Liverpool over the last 3-4 years. But the lack of trust in the players now, I feel like that's caused this whole Mesut Ozil drama as well. He's really trying to stamp his ground now, and it's causing issues in the back room. And I agree with both what Lee said and with what Harry said. Now, Harry did mention something about last season. Obviously, people that were against Wenger don't really want to say much this season, and that could be said towards like myself as well. But with Emery, it's like you said, Craig, it's his first season, and I do question him because he's done a lot of questionable things. We're losing to Bate, and you're not even putting Ozil on the bench. That is questionable in itself. But what I understand is that this team was in such a state after Wenger. It was in such a state that it's going to take a few windows, and we're going to have to trust somebody to make these vital changes. Now, if we do decide to run Emery out the club, or if Emery does leave on bad terms or whatever happens, we're going to have to trust the next man to do that. And that's going to be another 2 years. In my opinion, every manager should be given 2 years, including Sarri at Chelsea. I'll have a big argument and debate for him to stay.
Can I ask a question then? I'm not having a go at you.
That's fine.
When you say that the team was in such a state, right? How comes it went on a 22-game run then? If it's in such a state, I can't get my head around that. You know what I mean?
I actually
people
put that,
use that.
Yeah.
And I don't. If it's in such a state, would it go 22 games unbeaten? I don't want to
you're right.
Spot that's what
I understand.
People keep saying that to me. It's in such a state. It's in such a state, and I go, well, explain that then.
But my explanation of that would be that Emery's chopping and changing was the key behind that 22-game unbeaten run. His formation changes for the different fixtures, his substitutions, him leaving either Laka on the bench or Oba on the bench, and either or coming on to make the impact. Boded well for our team. That's how I see it. I see he was getting the best out of multiple players during that period, but the best out of them multiple players would only get so far, which is what happened in December. And then it seems like from December, he's thrown out that whole I can't play Lacazette and Aubameyang together thing, and he plays them in every game together now, which kind of is on the contrary to his first half of the season when he was kind of telling us that we can only start with one of them. And that's my thing against him. If he's got a philosophy, then put it in there and
stick with it.
Yeah, and just stick with it, because we don't know our best formation, we don't know our best starting 11, we don't know who his favourite player is, and the captain issue is a real big issue for me because there's no communication. I'd love for our captain to come and speak to us after losing to Bate and tell us what the hell he feels about it, and then what we're going to do about it. But we don't have a captain like that. We have no affinity towards a certain player that we can look to and say we want to listen to what he has to say. And I think that's what I mean about the state of the club as well, Lee. We haven't got a set piece taker. Like one day it's Torreira taking corners, one day Xhaka, one day Ozil. We haven't got free kick takers. We haven't got a captain. We haven't got a vice captain. We've got an imbalance in the squad. We've got no wingers, a bunch of centre mids, no real defensive mids. That, by the state of the club, I mean in that aspect, and the mismanagement. Remember the years we never used to spend over 100,000 on a player, and that used to be one of our main gripes against the club. Why don't we spend more than 100 grand a week on a player? We've gone from that club to 6 years later touching FFP. The mismanagement in that time of frame
massive
was
point.
so
massive. Yeah,
well, it was massive. How do you go from one thing to the other? And in that time, Tottenham have shown us up. Liverpool have shown us up. Jurgen Klopp had assets to sell at Liverpool to rebuild his squad. We have no assets. Pochettino, if Tottenham don't win the league or whatever this season, he could sell Harry Kane for 200 mil, re-sign Christian Eriksen, re-sign Son, buy a few players with that 200 mil, and he could be the next Liverpool. But we have no assets. Emery's been left with no assets. He's created 2 assets already in Torreira and Guendouzi. They're probably 2 of our top 3 valuable players now if we're going into this summer, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is mad.
See, I disagree with the assets thing only because if I was Unai Emery coming into Arsenal in the summer, I would have looked at that group of players and I would have said defensively they're an absolute shambles. Yeah. We haven't got quality defensively. I think everyone would agree with that. But there are 2 top quality strikers there. Mesut Ozil's there. Aaron Ramsey's that was there, you know, and you look at that, and what I can't get my head around is if you're looking at that squad of players, surely this is a manager who was supposedly hired because he has an attacking, exciting philosophy. You would be looking at this team and thinking, right, I need to play to my strengths now. Until I get players in, Arsenal aren't going to be a good defensive unit. Let's go out there and take the game to teams. And we haven't done that. That's what disappoints me. We've got 2 top quality strikers. We've got Ozil, who's been frozen out for whatever reason. But even when you look at the defence, and I know we didn't spend mega money, but we did bring in a goalkeeper. We brought in a right back. We brought in a centre back, and we brought in a defensive midfielder. So whoever's responsible for those transfers has done an awful job, because we've not progressed defensively despite bringing 4 players into that area of the team. I've just got on the screen in front of me the list of clean sheets for the teams in the Premier League, and I'm looking at it. Arsenal are down in 17th place. Southampton have got more clean sheets than us. Have they got better individual players? No. Brighton, another one. You could argue Newcastle United under Rafa Benitez, who are a championship squad. They've kept more clean sheets than us, almost double. Crystal Palace are right up there with 9. That's more than double what Arsenal have done. So at some point, you have to look at the coaching. You have to look at the way we're setting ourselves up in games. And if you're going to do what Emery's done, and keep saying, I'm not playing this player because I need physicality, I need work rate, then you need to improve defensively. If you don't, then you're looking stupid. Go out there and attack teams. Build a system to suit the assets that you do have. I know we don't have many, but we do have 2 top quality strikers and a top quality creative midfield player. I don't give a shit if Aaron Ramsey's leaving. Play him. Use him. He's out until the end of the season. Go on.
Sorry, do you know what it is? You've made a couple solid points, but let me just go to the first one with the assets thing. Yeah, in the summer, we bought Lacazette for 42 mil. I think it was. In the summer, he would have been worth less than that because he essentially got dropped from the first team at Arsenal. He wasn't looked at as he got dropped by France. He would have been worth less than 40 mil. Aubameyang we signed for 60 in January. Potentially we could have got 50, 60 for him in the summer.
But Turkish, you're looking at the financial aspect. Put that to a side for a minute. Look at the footballers and look at, when I'm talking about assets, I mean the footballers and the qualities that they possess. And you've got to look at if you was to list our players in order of quality, at the top 3 would be those 3. Would be Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Ozil. You could argue. Would at least be in the top 5. Though. Yeah, but the point is, the point I'm making anyway, and I've probably maybe taken yours the wrong way, is that when I'm talking about assets, I'm talking about the footballers that we have. Forget the financials because we're not going to sell them. I'm talking about, in terms of an asset, as your best players. And they are our best players. So you need to find a way of getting the best out of them. It's no good playing a system that benefits Koscielny because he's finished. It's no good playing a system that benefits Granit Xhaka because most people don't think he's good enough. So, you need to make the most of what you've got. And I just feel we haven't done that. It's like, what's a good example? It's like me giving you, an umbrella with a hole in it. What are you going to do with it? Nothing. It's not going to help. Just, you've got a good one in the cupboard and you're not using it. Like, I know it's a shit example, but like...
That was a good one.
Very good.
On the other hand, he could play all these players, lose, and the pressure is still in because he's not...
Exactly, and that's the problem he's got, Turkish.
Balance.
What we've got to get down to here, the nitty gritty is obviously this: why won't he play Mesut Ozil? What has happened? We see pictures on Twitter of Mesut Ozil training, larking around, having good fun with the rest of his teammates. There's no there's no reports coming back to say that he's in a sulk, that he's not talking to anyone, that that he's being treated unfairly. He posts pictures on his Insta. I'm so happy in London. This is so great, but obviously he's not playing football. And then he goes and posts that Instagram picture quoting Dennis Bergkamp. What the hell is going on, Lee?
Right, the one thing I've got to say about this, and this is why I'm not going to go into all that. I was ill last week, right, and it was he come back for 1 day's training, right. He's not going to be physically at his best, you know what I mean. If he had what I had, You know what I mean? It's going to take him a few days to get over it. So I don't think it was an issue of leaving him out of the Bate game. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he's only had 1 day's training. Get yourself a little bit fitter for the next game. First of all, I don't see that being a problem, right? If he wasn't well, the fact of the matter is, realistically, it shouldn't have been a problem. You know, you go over to Bate without Mesut Ozil, you win the game. The problem is that didn't materialise. You know, now you can look at statistics, you can look at everything with Mesut Ozil. His last game was Cardiff, yeah, right. And did he have a fantastic game? No. It was a boring game of football. So you have to look at it from that point of view. You go back to the Spurs game when we was absolutely sensational in that game. Mesut Ozil had a back injury, wasn't even there. So you've got arguments stacking up for and stacking up against. Now, my argument for Mesut Ozil is, you know, I mean, personally, you know, I think that there's a lot of minuses, but when the team is not performing, Craig, you know what I mean, like it's not, how can you then turn around and say, I'm not going to play him because of physicalities, or I'm not going to play him against so-and-so, and then go and lose to West Ham away, then go and lose to Bate, you know what I mean? You've then got to say, right, okay, didn't have Mesut Ozil against Huddersfield, but they should go and win that game, which is expected, which they went and done. But let's be honest about it. It wasn't convincing. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be convincing if you're going to put Mesut Ozil in it, but what I'm saying is now you come to Thursday, right? Now, whether Mesut Ozil plays or Aaron Ramsey plays or whatever,
Mesut Ozil will play and he'll be captain. Guarantee it.
Right, and if that is the case, then you know, I mean, you've got to say there's something wrong with the manager, because you do not leave out a player and then bring him back as captain.
Exactly.
Right? You just don't do that. It's just not done. Right. So you ask yourself the question: does he bring in Mesut Ozil for this game? Now, if he brings Mesut Ozil in and they win the game, yeah, right, he has then got to play Mesut Ozil at the next game against Southampton, and when we go to Spurs, he has got to play him, right? And then if Mesut Ozil puts in one of those performances that don't matter, then whose head is on the block? Whose head is on the block? And that's what's going to have to happen. But if he does not play Mesut Ozil on Thursday night, and God forbid we end up losing that game, there's just going to be carnage, Craig. It's going to be carnage. So he's put himself into a position now what I don't think he can get out of. You know, and I don't give a monkeys what anybody says. Mesut Ozil would have been laughing on Thursday night because, you know, imagine if they'd have gone to Bate and won 5-0. Ain't going to do him no good. But then losing that game 1-0 puts it firmly back into his court that he plays. But I'm telling you this now, and all those Mesut Ozil lovers out there with all their statistics and all their things and all that like that, when he plays on Thursday, he better perform and he better play well. Exactly. Because if he doesn't, he can get those statistics and I'll stick them up his arse and he can go. And everybody else then has got no argument because we're playing Bate. I expect him to run the show, statistics or no statistics. And that is the problem that we've got now. And God forbid, touch wood, that he goes and does it and proves that he is the player that he can be. And we can all get on with our game. Because I'll tell you what, if we play a team and we're firing, and Mesut Ozil is firing them two guys up, well, only be one because Lacazette can't play, can he? So we've still got to be firing, and he's supplying Aubameyang. I am going to be happy. Do you know why I'm going to be happy? Because it means Arsenal are doing well.
Absolutely.
And forget about statistics.
That's all I'm asking for. Like, a lot of people are saying, you know, oh, you're an Ozil basher, you're an Ozil basher. I'm not an Ozil basher. I just want Mesut Ozil playing for Arsenal, and I want the Mesut Ozil that we all know to play for Arsenal. Like I said last week, I just want to grab him round the neck, round the scruff of the neck, and say, what is wrong? Just play, will you? Play like you all can. I just want to bring this point in because it's a very good point. And it comes in from Michael Hernandez. He says, look, all this trouble, all this talk about Mesut Ozil, we finished 6th last 2 seasons with Mesut Ozil playing every game possible. Why is it such an issue now? Harry?
The thing is with Ozil is that Is Ozil's form patchy? Yes. Has he disappointed at times since he's come to Arsenal? Yes, absolutely. Is he always up for it? Probably not. I agree with all of those things. But you're talking about replacing him with Alex Iwobi or Henrik Mkhitaryan, who you can say the exact same things about. That's what I can't get my head around. You're not talking about a player that's come in and been brilliant and kept him out of the team. Because if that's the case, there's no argument here. The argument is that after every game, we're talking about how bad Alex Iwobi was, how he lacked end product. We're talking about the same things with Mkhitaryan more often than not. So that's why the Ozil thing is an issue, because Ozil's best is better than Iwobi's best. It's better than Mkhitaryan's best. So that's where I struggle with it. The other point I want to make on Ozil is I actually think that this whole Ozil situation is having a negative impact on Iwobi. And people probably won't get why I'm saying this, but if you're Alex Iwobi and you're coming into the team now, Alex Iwobi's still a young player. I know he's been in and around the first team for a couple of seasons now, but for me, he's still not at the level where he should be playing week in, week out for whatever reason. I don't know if he lacks confidence, his end product isn't always there, and I think a lot of the time that's because he's not composed enough, he's not confident enough. But all of these things going on with Iwobi being put in the team and put in the firing line by Emery every week, every time he has an average game, people are on his back straight away. Why isn't Ozil in the team? Why isn't Ozil in the team? The immense pressure that Alex Iwobi is under to perform now because of this whole saga is hindering him, in my opinion. And it's going to happen to Mkhitaryan as well. Obviously, he's an older player, he's more experienced. I don't think him as much. But Iwobi strikes me as the type of character that needs to be loved, needs an arm around him. And this situation is counterproductive for him, in my opinion. So I also think that what Emery's doing in terms of giving Guendouzi so much game time, I think eventually it's going to have the same impact on him. Yes, the plus side is you're getting game time, you're getting experience, but you're at a massive club and the fans are on your back and people expect you to perform every week. So at some point, as a manager, you need to take those players out of the firing line. Let the experienced players shoulder the burden, because it is a burden playing for Arsenal Football Club. You've seen the meltdown every time we don't perform.
Absolutely.
So there's those aspects as well. And I just think that Emery's man management is lacking. It's quite clear for me that Ozil's really popular in and amongst the squad. That thing he put on Instagram the other day, big fucking deal. So what? He quoted Dennis Bergkamp. Big deal. He didn't say that. He quoted Dennis Bergkamp, for God's sake. What is the big deal? He's got a PR team sitting in an office somewhere, probably in another country, sitting there typing up tweets, Instagram quotes, because Mesut Ozil is a brand. I know people hate hearing that word, but he's a bigger brand than Arsenal Football Club is at the moment. Look at the social media followings. His team are sitting there posting shit like that because that's what they do. People take it way too seriously and way too personally. For me, it's it's a non-issue.
I get it, but it's a non-issue in some aspects. I don't know. You know what it is by quoting legends like that who have done it all at Arsenal, who have sweat, blood, and tears for the club, and you're coming to use it as a PR exercise to win points over a manager at a time when we're just getting over one of the worst periods our fan base has gone through at a club. And I know it is not him, and I agree with you, it's his PR team doing it. But to me, that's a disgrace, because like Lee said, the last time he played at Cardiff, or the time that his last a lot of people are highlighting his last 5 performances and saying he's got 2 goals, one against Watford and one against. Listen, highlight his last 20 performances. It's still probably 2 goals. People want to suit their statistics and whatever for whatever arguments, but quoting Dennis Bergkamp, you see Socrates quoted Tony Adams a few weeks ago on Instagram. He quoted the play for the badge on the front of the shirt line. That's what he quoted. Do I have a problem with that? No. Why? Because Socrates, when he's on that pitch, he's giving it his all. Is he the best defender? He's not.
But I can tell you that Socrates can barely speak a word of English, man. He doesn't know what that quote was.
I know that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But as a player, he does give it for our club, and Ozil doesn't.
He does.
And Ozil doesn't.
What I don't get is why everybody got so triggered about a quote. It's literally a quote. It's not Ozil saying, "This is my home. I'm not going anywhere." He's literally quoted someone. It's like me putting a Scarface quote up, and then people getting
Let me
on
say this.
about it.
Well, you
Let
think
me
it's
say.
fuel to the fire, Harry. Like there's a fire going on, and that's fuel. That's how I see that tweet. It's not the right time to tweet.
Yeah,
Like,
I've got to agree with
tweeting
Turkish there.
something.
All right, but also, do you remember the day Mourinho got sacked? Do you remember Paul Pogba tweeted his team put something up, and within minutes they deleted it, didn't they? When the Mourinho announcement came out, that is a prime example that these things are scheduled in advance by a PR team, and they're probably auto-published. And as soon as that happened, Pogba's team went, "Oh shit, we're in shit here. Mourinho's just been sacked," and they removed it instantly. For me, this is not a malicious attack on Unai Emery. It is a scheduled tweet in order to carry on with Mesut Ozil's brand. And I think that we've spent the whole weekend this weekend, I know we weren't playing, but everyone's been talking about this bloody tweet. So what, man? We've got much bigger problems than what Mesut Ozil's PR team put on Instagram.
Let me put this question to the three of you, and it comes from Danny. Good evening, sir. How are you? And if you're not following at Birdcamp Wonderland, please do it. And go and subscribe to their YouTube channel because they're rather good. The Birdcamp Wonderland AFC podcast. Go and follow them. Danny, good evening and thank you. Let me put it to you this way: if he was on $100,000 a week, would we be having this conversation now?
No.
Lee?
No. I think there is a little bit towards that, but.
Rightly
Listen,
so.
we don't have this conversation with Mkhitaryan's on £190,000 a week. We don't have this conversation with Aubameyang who's on £200,000 a week. It is something there. Like, this thing about Mesut Ozil is about work rate and things like that. Is a little bit of a myth, if I'll be honest. I'm going to try and stick up for him because I watch other players and I see Aubameyang work just as I've seen him walk around in games this season. I've seen him being very, very lazy, right? I've also seen him work very, very hard in games, i.e. against Chelsea and Manchester United. But it seems to be like, it's Mesut Ozil, we'll pick on him, like, you know what I mean? And we can do that. Now, the running side of things, I can run around a football field and clock up miles. It's where I run and what I do. There's certain things in a game that we can see, and this is what worries me about his statistics. Danny's making a good point there about the money side of it. I do think it's an issue. You know what I mean? But the reason it's become an issue because it's stopping us doing other business, Craig. It's stopping us getting defenders, It's stopping us going out and buying 2 centre-halves that could get us into the top 4. So, if we can't buy those 2 defenders because of Mesut Ozil now has got to step up and take us to the top 4. Now, if he's not going to do that, right, then there's going to be criticism. Now, the only way that he can do that is if he's in the team. You know what I mean? Like the reason everybody's losing it a little bit, Craig, you know what I mean, is because they're paying all this wages, right? We can't buy those defenders, and he's not playing also. Yeah. So we're getting it from both sides.
Just I want to dip in there before you say. There's a comment coming there from Dan, and he says, if the fans want to vent on someone, then vent on the real problem, Stan Kroenke. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate there, actually, because I don't think the real problem is Stan Kroenke. Because we are, like Turkish said right at the beginning of the podcast, we can't sign anyone because of FFP. FFP is not about how much you spend; it's about how much you pay.
Is that right, though, Craig? Come on, when I look at Man City's squad, come on.
Well, this is it, Lee. This is it, mate. Yeah, but you've only got to look, mate. You've only got to look around all the other clubs in the Premier League. Christian Eriksen is on $70,000 a week.
Yeah, well, Spurs are an exception.
It's not an exception. It's not an exception. Christian Eriksen walks into any team in the top 6. 70 grand a week.
You're saying
FFP's a
about
myth.
fair play and all that, right, Craig? Yeah, I watched PSG the other day. You're telling me that they've got a lesser wage bill than us? They've just gone and spent 50 million on a centre midfield player that didn't get on in the game on Wednesday night. I look at Manchester City. Their bench at times is better than ours.
Don't forget.
Why are they under the fair play? They earn more money than us.
Just because you're paying 50 million for a player, don't mean he's got to be on top wages.
Kylian
Mbappe. A lot of people forget Kylian Mbappe is on loan. They're not even paying his wages.
Well, Carl Walker's on 170 grand a week as a right back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, Craig. You know what I mean? I watched Manchester City the other day with all these superstars and a half-empty stadium. How are they earning more money than us?
No, but you know what this is as well? Again, you're both right. You're both completely right. And you got to look at it like this. Stan Kroenke, like the Man City owners and the owners of PSG and the owners of these clubs, have been wise. And they've reinvested their own money yearly back into the squad through other businesses. That's what Stan Kroenke hasn't done. And that's what we need to blame him for. Yeah, that's a separate issue now. But with this, our money opened up when we started paying off Emirates, and we obviously started buying Ozil, started buying Sanchez. And last January, we came to a point when we can give one man 350k a week. Now, Ozil, even at the height of his career, was never worth 350k a week. Never. And I'm an Ozil fan. I've got his shirt when he first signed for us. I'm an Ozil fan. He's really a Turkish, like, obviously player, but he's chosen Germany. I'm an Ozil fan, but he's never, ever been worth 350k. He is not the leader of a team. He is not the star man of a team. He is someone that supports star men. Now, that's an issue. That's why you're both right. Craig is right in the sense of that 350k a week needs to be better spent. And it is a part of the issue. But the same way, the 190k of Mkhitaryan needs to be better spent. But right now, Arsenal need big players, and the only way we can get big players is...
It's all very well us sitting here slagging Ozil off, and you're very correct. Yes, there is other players who are massive money, like Mkhitaryan. I think Kolosniak's on 120 grand a week. I mean, he's on 120 grand a week. I mean,
and that's the mismanagement. Yeah. And that's the mismanagement. Stan Kroenke essentially sat back. He bought Arsenal and sat back. And Arsenal have slowly made more money in that time because the stadium's been paid off, because more commercial deals are coming through. And Gazidis and Wenger, with these funds, messed everything up. From Mustafi to Arteta to Ozil to Sanchez, even on the free. Xhaka, all of these were messed up. Kante you could have got for 5 mil less.
Yeah.
So all of these things have built up over time and got us from that 100 grand a week barrier to this FFP barrier. That's how we've got there. And Stan Kroenke, he needs to not sit back anymore and go somehow make a commercial deal with the LA Rams. Put the LA Rams on the fucking sleeve of our shirt. I don't care, as long as it brings in another 300 million a year, because that's what we need. More commercial deals like these Abu Dhabi and Dubai owners are doing. Be smart about it for once. And how many businesses has he got? Reinvest into Arsenal through them businesses, because it's cheating the FFP system. Harry's right, FFP is a myth, because it can be cheated, but he's just sitting back and watching things unfold, and that's what he needs to take blame for. And if it continues, it's going to be him. I'd more so put pressure on him than Emery next, but the state of our fan base now, it's like, it's always going to be Emery or Ozil right now. Kroenke's hiding again. And this is we went through years of, love and hate with Wenger to get to a point where finally that issue was put to bed, like it or not. And now we've got another issue rearing its head that seems as much animosity as the last. It's crazy.
All right, look at it this way, right? And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here as well, because I'm no fan of Stan Kroenke. Yeah, I don't want people to take this the wrong way. I'm not a fan of Stan Kroenke whatsoever. But you're Stan Kroenke. You just lost Arsene Wenger for whatever reason. You've pushed him out. I don't think Stan Kroenke's the one that's done that, by the way. I don't think Stan Kroenke gives a shit as long as the club's turning a profit. I think that was Ivan Gazidis' decision. I think Ivan Gazidis was pushing for that for a while. It eventually happened. Now, you're Stan Kroenke. You've brought in Unai Emery. You've trusted the guys that are in charge of your club at the time, which was Gazidis, to go and get you the next manager. Now, we know that Emery's contract at the end of next year has a break clause in it. Okay, so if the club decide that they don't want to give him the third year, they can say see you later, and they don't have to pay him off. That's the deal that they've got at the moment. So you've gone in the summer and you've given him, maybe not him, maybe it was Sven Mislintat. Well, I guess we'll never really know. But you've given the club money to spend, or the club has been allowed to spend money from its own budgets, let's say, because Kroenke's not putting it in from his own pocket. But you've budgeted to give him 75 whatever million it was that we spent over the summer. He's gone and bought 4 defensive players and Guendouzi. None of those transfers have really worked out, I would argue. Torreira looked like the best one. I think he's lost his way in the last few weeks. Maybe that's down to Emery's chopping and changing and his role slightly changing, but he seems to have lost his way. January comes along and you look at this and you think, has Unai Emery progressed this team enough? Maybe not. Do I now trust him with another load of money in January to correct this? Based on what I've seen so far, maybe not. Maybe the club are not sure that Unai Emery is the man for the long term, and maybe that's why in January we didn't spend any money. And people keep talking that there was this thing, wasn't there, about a 45 million budget in the summer and everyone went mad. We don't know that for sure. But what I think, and this is my kind of theory, is that if we do have money in the summer, I still am not convinced that they will lay it all on the table for Unai Emery, because in my eyes, Emery was not the first choice for this job. He was not the first choice. They interviewed a whole host of people and a load of them turned around and said, do you know what? This is what we need to turn this team around. And the club went, well, you can't have this. You're going to work under this structure. Sven Mislintat, Ralph Senlehi are going to pull the strings and you're going to work below them as a head coach. The only one of the candidates that we were linked with that has been a head coach successfully is Unai Emery. He just fits their agenda. But whether they have faith in him for the long term, I'm not convinced. And I think that that's a huge reason as to why Arsenal, even if there is money there in the summer, may hold back.
Great point. Lee, what would you say about that? You know, they're actually sitting there thinking, oh, you know, have we...
Sorry, Lee. Harry, what, you think none of his signings have worked out? That's surprising.
I don't think any of them have worked out. I mean, you could say Socrates has done all right. Lichtsteiner was a fucking... Lichtsteiner wasn't worth a fiver a week. Awful.
I agree with that one there.
Torreira started well, I thought. But I think he's kind of... what's happened to Torreira is exactly what happened to Coquelin. He came in the team, patrolled in front of the back four, done brilliantly. And all of a sudden, and I don't know whether it's the manager's instructions, he's now pressing in all sorts of areas and getting exposed all the time. So that one for me, that was the one I had the most hope for. I'm not saying it's a bad signing, but it hasn't had the massive impact I expected. Guendouzi for me was a gamble. If he turns out to be a fantastic player at the price we paid for him, then great, happy days. But it's a gamble. It's not a signing that's going to take you from battling from outside the top four into it, if that makes sense.
I think the problem with the signings, I think they've been good signings as individuals, but when you brought in a goalkeeper, a holding midfield player and a central defender, and you're still conceding goal after goal, that's a worry. It is a worry, you know what I mean, when you spent that sort of money. I think if you'd be honest, would you say Leno's an improvement on Czech? I'm going to touch and go. I'm going to say that probably he is slightly better. Yeah. I think Socrates, you know what I mean, is an improvement over what we've got. And certainly Torreira is in that holding role, but I think Torreira over the last few weeks has changed his role, where he's been out on the right hand side a little bit. I've seen him, which is fantastic, scoring goals against Huddersfield, popping up against Spurs, which is great. But ultimately, you know, he should be playing in that holding midfield role, just patrolling the back four, particularly if you're leaking goals. You know, but so I can see what we're saying on that point there. Now, if that is the case, and Harry's theory that they've not got the right man in there, now that is a worry, because one, you're going to have to bring in if you're going to bring in an elite manager, he's not going to be looking to spend £70 million.
Sorry, Lee, can I just say something? Sorry, just before you guys carry on, just to add to that, to clear it up. What I'm trying to say is, Unai Emery might have been the right man in the club's eyes when Gazidis made that appointment, but since
it's
he's
because
got,
I get that. Well, I was
there's
just
been a
about to
change.
say that. I was just about to say that. You're right, Emery coming with a different. There's people gone out of that club now that were there when you first said. So I can see that, but why have those two guys gone and not him? Is that would be a question I'll probably throw out. You know, I think it'd be very, 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 very harsh to say. The trouble is, I picked up the paper today. Zinedine Zidane saying that if he wants to go to Chelsea, he's going to want this and he's going to want that and he's going to want this and he's going to want that. Well, that puts Arsenal completely out of the picture because he's wanting 200 million to spend. You know, I say this to anybody I argue it. Any sought after coach, manager or whatever is not going to come to a club like Arsenal, especially, say for instance, you know, you're going about Man United after Alex Ferguson. Look what they've done to Moyes. They give him £50 million. He was always going to fail. You know what I mean?
Because they didn't trust him. Because they didn't trust him.
Maybe because they didn't trust him. So you've got to so if you're a manager of any sort, if I was manager of Arsenal, I'm going to come in there. I'm going to say, look, I want 200 million. To sort out that defence. That's what I'm going to do. I want 200 million to sort out their defence. Now, why, if they're going to get a manager, I don't know, an Allegri or someone like that, they're not going to come to Arsenal on a £70 million budget because the chances are you're going to fail. Yeah. Not only are you going to fail, you're not in a league where there's 2 or 3 teams. You're in a league where there's 6 teams that have got power. 6 teams, you know what I mean? Like Manchester City and Chelsea above everybody else. They're on Duracell batteries, you know what I mean? They're on the highest batteries you can get. Then you've got Manchester United and Liverpool underneath that, you know what I mean? And then you've got us with like, you know, I don't know what we've got, but like, and we're fighting as a manager. You're fighting 5 teams. Tottenham, for whatever what you want to say, and that's still a very, very powerful side. And the worrying thing for me about Spurs is what Turkish said earlier on, that if things don't go, have they really missed Harry Kane over the last 5 games? No, right? They've not really missed him that much, right? So the powers that be are going to turn around and say, do you know what? We could actually sell him for 200 million and get exactly what we need to go and win this title. So they could be a real massive.
I'm scared
problem.
about that.
Yeah, it's a massive problem. So a manager is not going to come in at Arsenal with what's Unai Emery's getting, because what Unai Emery's got, 70 million gets you what you're going to get, 6th place, 5th at best. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the problem that we've got here, like, you know what I mean? So if we're not going to trust him with the money and you're going to say, oh, we're just trusting with another 40, 50, 60 million in the summer, you might as well get rid of him, because we're going to end up another season with 5th or 6th. Get in the manager and give him the money that he needs. Or you say to Unai Emery, what do you think he's going to need? We as a club are going to back you.
Yeah, that's the big
thing. You know what? And you know what kind of adds to the debate as well? It's like, if you look at the year before Emery came into Arsenal, we spent 110 mil on 2 strikers. Emery plays with 1. And we also gave number 10 350k a week, which works out, I don't know how many mil. Emery doesn't play with a number 10. So we put in a manager that essentially doesn't fit in with the players we've just signed up for a hell of a lot of money. So his job is made even harder. And Harry makes a fair point with Anley at the beginning with, okay, we bought a centre-back, a goalkeeper and a defensive mid and haven't improved defensively. But it accumulate all the fees together and it's about 42, 45 mil. Whereas Liverpool are spending 150 on 2 and 2 wing-backs are coming through the youth system and all of a sudden their defence is transformed over a year. That's the difference as well. We need I keep on saying Koulibaly, but if he came in, he'd make Holding better immediately, because Holding's morale,
that's the key. He's a key.
Well,
the whole dressing room.
Was made a very good point last week. You know, so we got no partnerships, and he said that there ain't one partnership in the team, and Woz was saying if you bring in a world-class defender and stand him next to Socrates all of a sudden gets better.
Exactly.
Rob Holding gets better. Yeah, exactly.
Bringing a world-class centre mid next to Torreira, better.
Yeah, agreed. But also, though, when you think that we're Arsenal Football Club, and we're talking about how Rob Holding's injury has derailed our season. That's pathetic. I mean, he's a good young player. He's a prospect and all that. But Rob Holding going missing, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it shouldn't derail a club like Arsenal. You know, people were slagging off Bellerin at the beginning of the season. He's this, he's that. And now we're talking about how we're going to struggle for the rest of the season without him. It's a myth. It's like people want to believe that we can't defend because Rob Holding's out. Well, yes. I'm sorry, Koscielny's a seasoned international. Socrates has played over 100 international games and played for Dortmund and God knows who. Mustafi's won a World Cup. You can't tell me that Rob Holding's injury has derailed our season. It's all excuse making. Everybody points the fingers because they don't want to address the real issues.
Right. You're right, because people forget what line we're on. Talking about derailing, at the beginning of the season, if someone said in February you'll be a point off top 4 and in the Europa League last 16, that's the line I'm on. Are we derailed right now? No,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not derailed, but we're derailed.
Are we going to have performances like Barca? Because I'll tell you what, our next away game is Spurs. You know what I mean? Like, if we play anything like that,
that's the big thing. We don't want any more of these performances.
And it is the other worry is, which I was talking to someone the other day, which is a good point. We're all right when we're playing against good sides, where we can press them and press them. It's those sides that drop in at the back and say, well, we don't want to be pressed. So, you know, what you're going to do? And that's the, you know, and we've got to be able to break them down. It's a different game. It's a different game. Now, I think that Emery's systems are all worked on that energy of doing it and all that. But if you're to become a really good side, you've got to do that against the top side, which I think he has rectified, by the way, guys. We are now competing a lot better against the top 6 than what we have done in the last few years. But what we are doing now is we're dropping points against the poorer sides because we can't break them down.
Because we've got no invention.
They've got no invention. Right. So that's what he's got to use, whether it be Ramsey or whether it's got to be Mesut Ozil in there. That's the problem that he's got at this moment in time. And hopefully, you know what I mean, he can work it all out and he can be, because I quite like him as a manager, the way he goes about certain things. But I do worry about the lack of improvement at defending, and I do worry about the way he you know, I look at Mkhitaryan, like, you know, he's got no better. You know what I mean? Like, I look at Iwobi. He's good in certain areas, but he's too inconsistent. He's got to work on consistency. And I look at other coaches, you know what I mean, and I think, oh, look how he's improved. How he's improved. Pep Guardiola's improved so and so. Look how Sterling's improved. You know, I mean, you're telling me that Sterling wasn't wasteful with his final ball and whatever. Like, now look at him.
Yeah.
And look at him now. Why can't we do that with Iwobi?
England's best player now. He's England's best player.
But he was woeful at times. You know, let him have the ball. He's going to, you know. And I'm telling you, he used to go down the wing, and you know, I used to duck from behind the goal because I thought he was going to hit me. But now he's wicking them in. He's doing everything. You know what I mean? He has improved 100%. De Bruyne has improved. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain players that haven't. You know what I mean? I've got to, you know, you can go as Walker improved as a defender. Has he improved him as a defender? No, he hasn't. But you know, but then I look at Stones. Stones has improved. You know what I mean? I want to see Iwobi improve. You know, if you improve Iwobi like Sterling's improved, you know what I mean? We've got a player on our hands.
Yeah.
You know, this is the thing. Mkhitaryan in and out of too many, you know, inept performances, and he's in the side. Xhaka, you know what I mean? It's got worse. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I thought he was an embarrassment, by the way, coming on against Bate. He looked like he put on a stone of weight. You know what I mean? He can't get around the pitch. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see him improve. You know, this is the thing.
On the
I live with a United fan, man. They fucking gone 2-0 up.
Is he giving it? I was asking himself, are we mad? Is it or something? Listen, this.
Shouting around the house.
Right, winning 2-0.
We'll give him that.
Yeah, 2-0.
We'll give him that. Jamie, thank you very much for your donation, mate. While we're on the subject of defence, now, if you want to get your questions in, fire them in quickly. We will keep going and we'll be able to watch the second half in peace. Thank you, Jamie, for your support, mate. Thanks for the question.
I kicked off at 7:30. That's
what
why.
Defender in our price range would solidify us back up a bit? Love the pod, guys. Keep it up. Thank you very much indeed, Sam. Thank you very much for your kind donation. Thank you, Jamie. Turkish.
None in our price range right now. None. Well, the defender we need to remove wages first.
Yeah.
And like in our price range, there's no point in us.
We need a Van Dijk signing, don't we?
There's no point in us doing another Mustafi.
Yeah.
When we might as well hold that for another year and just make sure the signing is right for once.
Yeah.
None of these stopgap signings. Absolutely. I'm tired of them.
Harry?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer because I go back to that point I made earlier that Southampton have got more clean sheets than us, Brighton have got more clean sheets than us, Crystal Palace have. So there are players that we could get that would improve us defensively. There are a lot of players abroad. I mean, you look at Serie A, it's a league that I follow really closely. There's a few decent defenders there that you wouldn't think would go for big money, but there's certainly an upgrade on some of the players we got. So I think it's hard to give you a definitive name, but isn't that what the scouting network's for, to go out there and find these players? And, you don't always need to spend mega money to improve on what you've got. Sometimes, like Kolasinac, I know he's not very good defensively, but he's been a useful weapon to us this season, and we picked him up on a free. So there are players out there. You just need to look in the right places.
You know what? Harry is right, actually. He is right. But when you ask me the centre-back that I want, I need a star centre-back. And that's the difference, because the star is going to cost a hell of a lot more, but it's going to boost the confidence of the team a lot.
Exactly. More. Break the bank. I'll break the bank for Chilwell, Leicester, left-back, because we're desperate for a left-back. I'll go for him. I'll break the bank for probably someone like Maguire as well. I'd go for him. I'll buy Lacazelle's at Newcastle. So and I'll buy the right back at the young kid at Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka.
That's who I go for. Like the complete new back four. Thank you very much. Cost me 300 million, but there you go.
Yeah.
But then I could sell Mustafi for 3. Sell the others, and I could get back about 11 million on the other.
289.
You know what I mean?
A question especially for Harry, and this comes in from Bill. Thank you very much, Bill. Bill wants to know, Harry.
Bill, give it to him, Bill.
Bill wants to know, does Harry think the PSG experience with Neymar has scared Emery with his management style?
Good question.
I spoke to Roman Molina, that wrote the Emery biography that a lot of people have been reading. And I spoke to him for the podcast, actually, which I haven't even released it yet. I've done it on Sunday morning. But I asked him that question, and he's got a lot of insight into Unai Emery. Obviously, he spent years studying him, following him around to do the book. And he said that with the Neymar thing, it was an issue at the beginning, but it was one that they got past. So I don't think that will have as much impact on Emery as people think. I think the Neymar situation is very different. I think with a club like PSG, if they've invested that sort of money, they're going to force you to play him. Whereas, and to give him the power that he wants. Whereas at Arsenal, we're seeing with Ozil that that's not the case. So I don't think those situations are very similar, to be honest. But it is something that a lot of people have referred to in the last few days and said, Emery's got a history of falling out with players. So it's an interesting one. But I think when you look into the details of it, it wasn't really that big an issue. He had a much bigger falling out with Ben Arfa over at PSG. So for me, it's not that big a deal, but I can see why people are referring to it.
Absolutely, Lee. There's one here for you, mate. I've got to try and find it now. I've lost it, and I had it there. Oh, here it is. This one comes in from Rowan, and Rowan wants to know, Lee, who do we need to get off the wage bill in the summer?
Who do we need to get?
other than Paul Mercer.
Poor Mercer. I think, I do think, if I'll be honest, his time's come to an end. I think that if Emery stays, I think that they'll try to offload him, and I think that we need to do that for the long-term plan as well. Not just short-term. But I think that Mkhitaryan's another one that's got to go, as far as I'm concerned. £180,000 a week. No, sorry, that's got to go. Obviously, we're losing Aaron Ramsey. I'll tell you who's been a big blow to us this season, and I don't think we've been quite the same team since he's got injured. That's been Danny Welbeck. I think that he'd give us something like power in the last 20 minutes of games in that unbeaten run, or he wore teams down for other players to come on. Obviously, they're not going to renew his contract, so there's another lot of money to go. So I don't think there's too many that they need to out really. But I think that we're crying out for a wide player of genuine pace and someone. I'm not saying that we should go out and get him, but someone like Zaha is what we need. Someone that's going to take players on and have pace. Somebody of that ilk. And if we can get rid of Mkhitaryan and Ozil's wages and bring in somebody like that, then I would be more than happy to accommodate that.
Okay, last question of the night, and she's done it again. She's got a great knack of doing this. Posted in the best question. Mrs. Same Old Arsenal. Karen. She's done it again. Harry's disappeared. I don't know where he's gone. But anyway, we'll put Karen's question up. Oh, he's back. We'll put Karen's question up. Do you think it's coincidence that our performances have dipped at the same time as Unai Emery told us there was no money? Do you think he was lied to by Gazidis that he would have money, and is that why he's pissed off?
That's a good question. She's done it again. She's done it again. Go on, Turkish. You go on this one. Go on.
It's
a good point.
I think that caused the Sven fallout, if I'm honest. I think Sven was sold the dream at the club. I think we brought Sven in for these low budget signings, and I feel like when it came up to January, a lot of Sven's targets for Arsenal were were out of our budget. We had no budget, and when the time came to tell Sven, listen, these are not the players that we can go for, he looked at it like, well, you sold me a dream. This is not the club that I need to be at. I'm not here to get you loan signings and turn them into. I'm here to get you cheaper signings and flip them into maybe 3, 4, 5 times the value. With Emery, I think Emery is just as frustrated with the situation. I feel like he probably wanted. Obviously, he wanted the budget at least. Never mind how much of the budget he wanted, but I feel of course he's frustrated. Who wouldn't be frustrated when you're in the Premier League, the richest league in the world, and you can't spend any money as Arsenal Football Club? Yeah. Who wouldn't be frustrated? So yeah, but Sven leaving was definitely a big part in that whole debate with zero investment and FFP and all that.
Harry?
Sorry, can you repeat it quick? I lost my connection, didn't
I? Karen was asking, is there... I can't remember it now, and I've lost it. But she said that, is it a coincidence that our performances have started to drop off once Unai Emery found out that he didn't have any money to spend? Was he sold a dream by Gazidis?
I don't think he was. I think that he knew what he was getting himself into, and that's why I keep making that point that he was hired because of that. He was hired because he was the one that would accept working that way. He's done it before with previous clubs. He's worked under directors of football at previous clubs. And if you go back to Valencia in particular, they had no money at the time. They were on the verge of falling under. So I think that was part of the reason that Unai Emery was appointed. So he might not have known the extent of how bad things were, but he certainly knew that there would be limitations in this job. So for me, no, I don't think so.
Lee?
Well, if I was Unai Emery, I'd be very, very disappointed now that I've lost 3 players through season-long injuries that are also going to be going into next season as well. You know, like I think Bellerin's due back in November, Rob Holding in October, and Danny Welbeck for the season, and not being able to replace any of them in the January transfer window. As a manager, I wouldn't be happy with that. So, and then to have a meeting to turn around and say, no, you're not going to be able to replace any of those players. I'm pretty sure that was a kick in the old goolies for our manager, if I'll be honest. And then on the flip side of that, saying, oh, by the way, we still expect you to get top 4.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Fans, yeah.
See it. So I think then what he decided to do was, all right, if that's what you expect, but I'm going to tell the fans what's going on. And he did come out and tell us. So, yeah, I think that he is upset by it, what's happened. And quite rightly so, because he's not been given the right for whatever reason, whether you say on tactics and whatever, I don't think that he's been given the proper tools to do the proper job, and that is saying when you lose two players out of that defence that would play week in, week out, and also a forward that you've not replaced, but you can get away with probably because you've got the two guys up front, but definitely in that defensive area. And to be saying that we're not going to replace him, I think that it could have had effect on him as well. I do think that maybe like he's just lost a little bit of oomph. Yeah, so I think, personally, I think if it was me, I would have lost a bit of oomph from it. Yeah.
That brings us, unfortunately, to the end of the podcast. Sorry to do it so. What's the word I'm looking for?
Can't believe how quick it's
abruptly. Yeah, I mean, we've been going for nearly an hour and a half. Would you believe? I could easily go for another hour and a half, but like I say, at the end of these pods, I don't think my wife would be very happy about that. And I know Lee's dying to watch Man United and Chelsea.
Well, not now. I wanted Chelsea to win that. But,
it's fucking.
Let's hope it goes to a draw and they bash each other up. Extra time and penalties and
all of that.
Couple of sending offs and couple of injuries.
Hopefully the fire alarm goes off and they've got to abandon it.
Thank you to all of you who have stayed to listen to us. Absolutely amazing. Just shy of 300.
Considering that game's on as well.
Considering there's a football match on as well. I mean, come on. Give yourselves a pat in the back and thank you very much indeed. Thank you to everyone that's donated to us this evening. Very, very much appreciated. Might be able to afford to do a pair of trainers this week. Might. Yeah. I'm only joking. I don't spend your donations on trainers. Thanks for Nigel, who's been in the chat there, moderating it for us. Thank you very much, mate. Again, keeping it nice and clean.
Nigel.
My thanks to Lee Judges. Thank you very much, sir.
No worries, my pleasure. Enjoyed it. Great chat.
My thanks to Harry.
Pleasure as always.
And don't forget, everyone, you should be going over to Harry's podcast and following it, please, at the Chronicles of a Gooner. Brilliant podcast. Has some great guests. Has great guests on there. He still won't tell me how he gets them, but that's sure. Look, that's up to him. No, I'm only joking. Just go over and subscribe to Harry's podcast. Follow him on Twitter at the Chronicles of a Gooner. Turkish, we got you here finally, son.
Yeah. Pleasure as always. Come on.
And don't forget, you must be supporting Turkish as well with his show on Arsenal Fan TV. A very, very good show that does feature Lee a lot. So get over to Arsenal Fan TV, subscribe to them. Go over to Turkish and subscribe and follow him on Twitter at Turkish LDN. Am I right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of that.
Get over there and follow him.
He's got a good channel. He's got some good content.
He has got some good content. Get over there, subscribe, like, share. You know the score. Get over and follow him. Show him some support and put some comments in his videos. The same old Arsenal send you.
I don't mind being Graham's regular substitution, you know. So.
Actually,
let me know when you need Ole to come off the bench.
Actually, you've led me quite nicely into there. Actually, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've been missing Graham, and I know all you lot have been missing him. We miss him, we miss him as well. But unfortunately, Graham has had a change in shift pattern at work. So for this month, unfortunately, he can't join us on a Monday. He hopes to be back for the 25th of February, which is the next podcast. So hopefully Graham will be back next week, and you'll all be able to say hello and tell him how much you've missed him. Graham will be back. People are saying I've sacked him. I haven't sacked him. Why on God's green earth would I sack that man for coming to talk on this podcast? I wouldn't have no idea. It'd be the maddest thing anyone's ever done. No, I haven't sacked him. Like I said, he's got work. We've all got jobs, and unfortunately, sometimes we can't make it. And in this instance, that's all about what Graham. That's what it's about. Remember, if you want to go to the Legend, if you want to go to the evening in Islington, links are below in the description. Sign up to FansBet. Once you've done that, click the other link, get yourself free tickets. Lovely. Have a good night if you go. Lee will be there, Harry will be there, and Graham will be there. Alongside Kevin Campbell and Nigel Winterburn. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the game, if you're watching it. And until we see you again, up the Arsenal.
Down you Gunners.